Hello, welcome to the Belk on Business podcast. This is Josh Belk, and I appreciate you joining the show today, and I hope to provide value to you on this episode. If you do get value out of this episode, please do me a huge favor and make sure to subscribe to this podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcast, leave me a 5-star review. Thanks again for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, I appreciate you taking a few minutes today to listen. Today we're going to talk a little bit about process improvement. I think most everyone that listens understand there's essentially three elements to every business. You have process, you have people, and then I think maybe most importantly is your purpose. Understanding why you do what you do, why you get out of bed in the morning, why you have that business, understanding the purpose. The people side, Josh here, who's doing the recording behind the camera, he and I were just talking about people issues in business, and we all have that kind of understanding, who do we hire? How do we find these people? How do we keep them? How do we cultivate those individuals in our business? But the third part is that a process. And that really gets into the day-to-day grind, kind of understanding, boiling things down. I have an objective. I have something I need to get done. And how do I essentially get that done effectively, efficiently, and on time? Just yesterday, kind of dealing with a vendor trying to get a big project done, and some emails, and didn't get responses. I had to send a text, and I finally got a response back, and just kind of understanding that the process wasn't in place. So sometimes when we don't have a process in place, we don't have a good process in place, it results in delays, so we really need to get those processes nailed down. So just a few items here in regards to processes and evaluating the processes and getting to the point to where not only are you implementing a new process, but also communicating that as well. So first of all, when you get into your process, wanting to improve process, you have to define what that process is. This is not at all my area of expertise. We actually have a client of ours. We're in a mastermind that they actually hold that really gets into digging into the processes in business. And kind of looking at process in business, first thing you need to do is actually define the process. So actually define the process. So look at what is our process currently. Here for example, if I want to get a tax return completed, I own an accounting firm, and that's one of the things we do, maybe completion of financial statements, whatever the case may be. I want to take a look at what are the steps in that process. So I sit down and literally we can map this out, and there's software out there that can do it. There are companies out there that can come in and help you with it, but actually mapping it out. What's each step of that process? So how are we doing it now? Essentially is the question you're trying to answer. So defining what that process is, understanding this is how I'm doing it now. Secondly, measuring key elements of that process, such as time. So at each phase of the process, how much time does it take me to get from one step to the next? What resources does it involve? So we talk about the resource of time, the resource of money. Okay, so what are the different resources that are involved? The resource of people. And so who all needs to be involved in the process, how much time is involved, how much money is involved in the process. So that's measuring the key elements of the process. Thirdly, analyze the process for insights beyond just the financial. A lot of times when we go through, we're looking at processes, we're just being very, very pragmatic and thinking the bottom line as far as money. But you need to analyze the process beyond that. You need to be looking at the time elements. And there are different tools out there that you can utilize. You can use a cause and effect analysis, which is a fishbone diagram. You can pretty much Google it and kind of see what that looks like. You can use the 5 whys, part of the Six Sigma processes out there, where you can kind of go through and boil things down. So what you're really trying to do is to determine the root cause and the root effect of every step in that process. And then next, you're ready to move to the step of improvement. So improving the process. And when you're going through and you're working on improving the process, this is going to require different types of skills, problem-solving skills, negotiation, critical thinking, and critical judgment, to be able to look at it and say, okay, do I have the right people in the right seats in this process? Do I have the right tools in the process? Sometimes it may require a new person, a different person to improve the process. Sometimes it can be a technological improvement, maybe getting software that can help in improving the process. So you go through and you begin to the steps of, do I need to bring somebody else in? Do I need to pull somebody out? Do I need to have somebody different in the process? Do I need to eliminate one step in the process? Do I need to delegate? Do I need can I simply just remove the process altogether in its current form and utilize software to get the same thing done? So you really dig in and figure out what do I need to do to be able to improve the process. And once you've determined that, then you get to the point of communication and implementation. One thing I think is sometimes can be a good idea is to run the two processes simultaneously. So the old way that you're performing the particular task, and then also the new process, and do those at the same time. And then see is this new process or the new way of doing things better than the old way I was doing it. And so that can be part of the implementation process. But I think most importantly, once you kind of go through, is be able to communicate it. So you go to your team and say, we're going to change a little bit the way that we're conducting this particular area of our business. So we're gonna change some things up. And for them to be able to understand what it is exactly you're trying to do, and then explain to them the steps in the process. So it's the point of communication, implementation, but also of control. So understanding, who is responsible for this process, and then making sure that we are following the steps in the process going forward to be able to allow for us to operate as efficiently as possible. We can, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're trying to increase our bottom line, we're trying to increase the value to our client, to hit our timelines, et cetera. So define the process, measure key elements of the process, improve the process, and then communicate and implement the process. Just a few ideas here on process implementation, process improvement. Hope this brought some value to you. We can ask you to consider subscribing to the Belk on Business podcast. I'm Josh Belk. Have a great day.